Welcome back to Belfield on Broadway. It's always nice to find a friendly hotel with good restaurants and service, and the Crowne Plaza is definitely one of those. And Michael Silberstein joins us now, the General Manager. How are you?
Thank you. Very well.
Now, you sound too important to be wasting your time talking to me on this program.
No, we're never too important to talk to journalists, number one. But first of all, welcome to Times Square. We opened this hotel 20 years ago, and you'll be surprised to know that Times Square was not what it is today 20 years ago. As a matter of fact, the New Yorkers used to call it Slime Square. And I've warned all my people here not to mention that we own Times Square. We used to call it the Crowne Plaza on Broadway, the Crowne Plaza Manhattan, but never Times Square. And look at it today, 20 years later, this is one of the most popular destinations in the world, if not the most popular destination in the world. So it took 20 years, but here we are, and now we're very successful. We have a beautiful hotel that just underwent $85 million of renovation, and we have a beautiful restaurant. I have Joe Verde here with me, who's the executive assistant manager, director of food and beverage, who took care of you last night, and I wanted to hear how well it was and how good the food was.
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Talking about hotels first, so let's keep with that for a second, because we're very picky now, aren't we? We're not going to just be satisfied with a bed that's comfortable. We want a nice TV, we want clean carpets, we want curtains that close. We don't want to be woken up at 6 o'clock in the morning with banging on the door. You've got a hard job, really, because you're trying to look after a ton of people and keep them all happy.
Yes, my excuse for getting into this crazy profession was that my father was in that business, but I know, Joe, what's your excuse for choosing that profession of hotel business and restaurant business? It is very difficult. It sounds very, very glamorous to the outsiders, but it is really the nitty-gritty. You can take care of a guest and make sure that everything functions and everything you want is there. And just the last day, one doorman or one waiter or busboy can just kill the entire visit. And all the effort that we put in for a week or a month just goes to waste. So it is a very difficult profession, but here again, we have over 400 employees. 35% of them have been here 15 years or longer. That makes a difference. They know the hotel, they love the hotel, it's their home, and when you come in, you're coming into their home, and they're very proud of it.
I think the other thing is we're all quite vulnerable when we arrive in a foreign city, and even this time I arrived into LaGuardia, and the nice taxi man decided to take me through the tunnel, which cost me about $15 more. I asked him not to, and therefore I didn't pay him the extra $15. But if I didn't know that, I wouldn't know, would I?
Perfect. I love to hear those stories, because some cab drivers, and that's true to every big city, including London, forgive me, where some drivers try to take advantage of tourists, and that's the worst thing that can happen. We try to do everything we can to make sure that it doesn't happen. We have those pamphlets that we give out at the airport that tells you that you shouldn't pay more than a certain amount, and as a matter of fact, you shouldn't have the meter on. So this is something that is very upsetting. However, I hope that you took his number, because if we complain about those drivers that are not very honest, they lose their license.
What was nice, though, your doorman stuck up for me because I told him I wasn't going to pay, and it's always nice to have somebody who can defend you.
Oh, that's music to my ears. Our doormen have been here for 20 years, all of them, and they will defend you big time. Big time. They hate it when they see it, and it happens not too often, I must say, because the city has improved in past 10, 15 years, and most people know that there's a certain amount of money that you should pay, but the doorman is, when the doorman takes care of you when you arrive, it's already a bonding that is created that can only get better from there on.
Well, I think, let's face it, when you're here for a long period, I'm here for a week, it does become your home, and therefore they become your family, and you need to be able to trust them.
Not only that, the doormen are very proud, not only of the hotel that they've been working for 20 years, but they're very proud of New York City, and they're proud to see what we did, in Times Square, for example. This was not a place you wanted to be seen or walk at night 20 years ago. Today, it's one of the most popular, admired places in the world. So they're very proud of it, and they don't want one cab driver to ruin that experience.
And again, you talk about how Times Square has changed. Like you said, it was a place of ill repute, really. I mean, there was somebody on every corner who wouldn't necessarily be in your best interest. Whereas now, they've spent a lot of money on the police and making it safe. And the one thing I always feel here is safe. They work really hard on that.
Yeah, we actually have something here that we adapted from London. We have the Alliance, which used to be called the Business Improvement District, and I'm very proud to say that I was one of the founders of the BID Times Square. And what it is basically a city within a city. In London, you have the mayor, the mayor, and then you have every district has their own mayor. Here, we had the BID, which is now called the Alliance, and we have our own security, our own social program, and we take care of our area. And we do all the things that the city cannot do for us. So that's part of the reason that Times Square has evolved and has been so successful in becoming what it is today.
It's very interesting here you talk about how long your staff have worked here, and that's so important because coming into a town for the first time from a position of ignorance can be quite daunting. Because Manhattan, let's face it, isn't very big, but it's big enough to get lost if you don't know where you're going.
Yes, the one advantage in Manhattan is that you have the numbers and the avenues that's basically better than I've seen in any other big city, but still, it's overwhelming. The buildings are very tall and overwhelming. A lot of people, just Times Square, you have a couple million people walking through Times Square every day. So it can be intimidating, and so that's very important. Yes, I agree.
The Crowne Plaza is right here in the centre of Times Square, and it's a huge, big thing with the Crowne Plaza put across it. That must be nice every day when you drive into work, and there's your hotel branded about 6 foot high in letters.
Yes, you get used to it, and but it is great. And this Crowne Plaza in Manhattan happens to be the flagship of the Crowne Plaza worldwide, and that's why we have to have those signs, and this is why we have to make sure that the hotel is kept up and that the service is as good as it is, because everybody's watching us.
Let me ask you some silly questions, because when I check into a person in the building and when I phone reception, I need them to pick up immediately and bring whatever I request straight away. How many people are staying here at any one time?
Well, we have 770 rooms, so you can have up to more than 1,500 people that stay in the hotel, but then you could have another 2,000 people coming in and out for meetings and conventions and lunches and dinners. So you would have 3,000 to 4,000 people going through your hotel on a daily basis, which is like a small village.
So how many people will be working here at any one time to keep the place going?
Well, we have 423 employees, which covers 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So at any time we have short of 200 people working at the hotel.
I suppose for you, this must be like your own Broadway show. I mean, you're here in New York on Times Square, and you've got to make sure this thing happens every day, because if not, people are going to be very upset and not come back.
Yes, well, what I failed to tell you in the beginning is that I opened this hotel 20 years ago. I left for over 10 years, and now I came back a year ago. And so for me, it's beyond just managing a hotel. It's my hotel that I saw from the ground up. I opened it. We opened it in 1990, and actually when we opened, we did something that we're going to repeat now again. In the back of the house, on every door, before you walked out to the public spaces, we said on stage, off stage. And in orientation, I used to tell the people, can you imagine an actor going on stage one night and saying, guys, you know what, I had a problem at home with my spouse, and I really don't feel like acting tonight. It doesn't happen ever. And that's what you should feel like when you come out of the kitchen or out of housekeeping. You're on stage and you have to perform, regardless of what happened to you yesterday and regardless of what your issues or problems are. you have to perform, and being on Broadway helps to keep it up because it's close to the real theaters, and yes, we are a theater.
And it must be a special thrill for the staff. Of course, everybody who comes in is special, but when those big stars come in or somebody incredibly important knock on your front door, that must be a big thrill for them.
Oh, yes. They see them come in and out, whether it's to the restaurant or to stay. And there is one time you don't have to worry about their behavior or being nice and polite. Sometimes you have to make sure that they stop, catering to that person and realize that there are 2,000 additional guests in the house. But yes, that's thrilling, and that's part of the fun of being on Broadway.
And finally, on the hotel, is there any better thrill than driving into Times Square and being part of the madness that is this New York?
No, it's a thrill, and as I said, I started it 20 years ago when it wasn't a thrill. And I can tell you that today it's something that is invigorating and it really pumps you up, and you don't need to remember that you're running a hotel and that you need to service the guests because you're pumped up and you're excited, every day when you come in. It's like, going on stage.
Thank you for dinner last night. I ate in the Brasserie, and two things struck me about it. One was the service, and secondly, the view. The food's always going to be fine. We know that. This is New York. You wouldn't get away putting rubbish food on people's plates. But for the staff to be looking out at that view over Times Square 24 hours a day, which is literally what this city is. I mean, any time of day there are people on the streets. Must be incredible for them. And again, as you say, the people who come in are just so excited to be there. Must be nice having a restaurant in New York.
Oh yes, the view is very unusual because you get the excitement, but you're still sitting in a air-conditioned, restaurant with excellent food. So this is exciting. As far as we're concerned, unfortunately, at a certain point, we start taking it for granted, and we only realize how beautiful it is when people like yourselves are kind enough to tell us that it is unusual.
And of course, Joe, you're head of food and beverage here, and it's your responsibility to make sure that the food is consistent, because that's what's most important to me with a restaurant. I want to know that I'm going to get good food every time, just not luckily on a one-off. It's a big problem, that, for people like you, isn't it?
Absolutely. And what you said earlier is actually hope that you don't get rubbish on the plate. But I think it's oftentimes an afterthought for folks that run these operations, that it may not be a priority. I mean, I came from the kitchen for many years, and for me it is a priority, and it's crucial, and to accept mediocrity is just not going to work.
Joe, I don't want to offend you with this next bit, because I could do, and please forgive me for a moment, because I had scallops and steak last night, which were of course tremendous, but your French onion soup really is amazing. I searched the world high and low looking for good French onion soup. Congratulations, you passed the test.
Thank you. We've been using that recipe for a while. It's based on a veal stock, and the cheese crust is crucial. Not only is the depth of the broth important, but the cheese has to be right, and there's 3 different cheeses in there, and I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Michael, how do you think this interview's gone on a scale of 1 to 10? Very good, average, poor?
I think 11, because I did most of the talking. But Joe is very humble. Joe was a chef at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel and really knows food. And to have a director of food and beverage that really came from the kitchen is very unusual. Usually you have food and beverage directors who came from operations and are very good in, controlling costs, but he also understands the difference between okay and excellent food.
Being as it's gone so well, do you think I could now ask Joe to go back to the restaurant for another French onion soup?
You are always welcome to taste, because I want you to deliver the message to all of England that we're here in Times Square, the Crowne Plaza Times Square, and we are very keen on having the British come over and taste our food and stay in our rooms and experience our excellent service.
Congratulations on being you and for providing a lovely stay for me here in New York. The Crowne Plaza is a place to come on Broadway. You can't miss it. It's a big, big sign. There's no point giving the address, is there? Just look for it.
49th and Broadway, just to be on the safe side.
Good PR, man. Michael and Joe, thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you so much.